Everybody, thanks for coming. This is the quarterly economic development meeting, and appreciate you all being here. Do we want to take up attendance?
Executive Budish.
Here.
Mr. Burns. Mr. Friedman.
Here.
Mayor Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Hall. Director Jackson. Mr. O'Malley. Councilman Schran. And Mr. Shaw.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment?
Executive, there was no public comment received by email, and since this is a public meeting, you could ask if anyone wishes to make a comment.
Anybody online want to make a comment?
Or here. Oh, sir.
Anywhere? Okay. The minutes from May 20th? We get a, okay, is there a second?
Second.
And moved and seconded. All those in favor say
Aye.
opposed. Okay, the minutes are approved. All right, we have a series of, I think, very interesting speakers today, with the theme being innovation. Beju, I see you're not on as a speaker, but if you want to, you've been leading an effort as well to bring more innovation to the county and city, and so we welcome your comments as well. The county's been really interested, working hard in innovation. In fact, when I came into office, we started an innovation department, and our director is here, Catherine Tkachuk, who, by the way, just led a successful effort to bring broadband throughout the suburbs. City of Cleveland, she's been working with, is working to bring broadband within the city, and by the time they're done, we should be totally covered. Everybody should have the option to get broadband, which is, I think most of us here know, it's critical to the success of the region. You can't find jobs, you can't apply for jobs, you can't have remote learning, you can't, there's so many things you can't do without broadband. So County Council's been very supportive of that effort. We partnered with Governor DeWine and the state, and we raised $20 million. And I forget, you want to tell the name? We just won a big award for our broadband efforts. Why don't you come on up and mention that, since our theme is innovation? You have to press the button or something.
We were just awarded the National Digital Inclusion Alliance
Digital Inclusion Trailblazer Award in 3 different categories. So one of 32 communities around the country, one of only 2, us in Franklin County in Ohio, for our work and what we're doing.
Great. We've been dealing with innovation since we started this new government. The efforts included opening up innovation centers at public libraries, the broadband, of course, that she's talking about, we have right now on the, that's gone through council. Our water project to use our resource in a very innovative way to bring more business to Northeast Ohio. We have our workforce program that we had a team of community leaders, which Beju was very involved with, to help us with the with putting together a new workforce approach and expand what's been successful. And of course, we've been working on the microgrid project for several years. And again, thanks to Jack, we've been able to get that through council successfully, and it opens up a lot of opportunities for us. So we're very into innovation. We have a bunch of leaders throughout the county that are also very into innovation. We have assets here that are supportive of innovation. NASA Glenn is a major asset that we sadly have underutilized, but I think that there's a growing understanding of the importance of connecting with NASA Glenn and commercializing the great technology that they create at NASA Glenn. You look like you want to maybe say something, Beju. We've worked with Nottingham Spurk, which is, I think, one of the great, it's just a super creative business here in town that is probably the least known, best secret in Cuyahoga County. It's you know, I think they have more patents than Thomas Edison at this point, and you know, they are a teammate and a partner with what we are trying to do here as well, bringing technology to market. So we have today, we're going to hear from Jumpstart, who's been a partner with us. Talianje is going to speak to us about some of the exciting things that are going on there that we've been supportive of here at the county. We have a presentation from the IBM people in Clinic, their partnership that has such great potential for Northeast Ohio. And we're going to hear from Case, the innovation leaders at Case Western. So with that, I'll stop talking. Does anybody have anything they want to add before I bring Talianje up? Then come on.
Thanks, Executive. While Talianje gets ready to start, I will just add, we certainly welcome, Beju, any comments you may have as the leader of the Cleveland Innovation Project as we go through the program today. I do want to give a program note. We had originally planned for Magnet to come and speak about Build Back Better, but the announcement hasn't been made yet, and so they wanted to not jinx it by talking about it before the announcement's made. So they begged off and said, could they come talk about that at a future meeting? So with that, I will also note, we all, of course, have a long and rich relationship with Jumpstart. One of the things I asked Talianje to highlight was the Entrepreneurial Services Program, which relates to the state of Ohio's third frontier. By no means the only thing Jumpstart does, but one of the key ways it's been helping support innovation, especially in the tech space here in Greater Cleveland. Talianje.
Is your microphone on? There you go.
There it is. Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to be part of the conversation today as you are discussing all of the wonderful things that are happening in the space of innovation in our region. I believe I do have a slide deck that will accompany some of my comments. But to Paul's earlier statement, Really what we wanted to do was take a few moments to highlight for you how the Ohio Third Frontier Entrepreneurial Services Program, or ESP in particular, has been a significant vehicle for creating and accelerating innovation in the region. I'll be sharing some insights on what we do through that program and what's made feasible in terms of partnerships and networks, how that work is progressing currently. Also highlighting our recent award from the Ohio Third Frontier about the next 2.5 years of funding and commitment support, and the expansion of the network for Northeast Ohio to deliver on more opportunities to accelerate innovation, and then connect the dots on how the history of Jumpstart's partnership and network model through the ESP has helped to position the region and the county in particular for new and emergent opportunities such as Build Back Better and the National Science Foundation Innovations Engines project, which you will hear a little bit about from the other presenters this morning. So with that, again, Teleandre Thomas. I serve as the Chief Operations and Relationship Officer for Jumpstart. I also give you greetings on behalf of our CEO, Ray Leach, who unfortunately is out of town, but is with us here in spirit. So hopefully you are all somewhat familiar with our mission. It is focused on unlocking the full potential of entrepreneurship to transform communities. We've been doing this work and serving this mission for about 18 years now, anchored and located here in Cleveland, Ohio, in the middle of the county, but have the opportunity to serve and support all of Northern Ohio. So that gives us access into Northwest Ohio with operations in Toledo, and we've also had office and support in Stark County as well. When we talk about the Ohio Third Frontier, which has been a core component of Jumpstart's genesis and our ability to focus in on entrepreneurship and innovation in the region, it's important to understand that there's two distinctions in that program. One is focused on investment or capital towards venture opportunities, and that is a loan program. We have been doing that for well over a decade, and that has allowed us to work directly with a number of portfolio companies in the region who are high potential tech startups, and provide the capital that they need to accelerate that growth, which has generated billions of dollars in economic development and generated tens of thousands of jobs in the region. And we'll highlight a little bit of that as I move throughout the conversation. But as I said, really what I wanted to focus on was the Entrepreneurial Services Program. So this program has allowed Jumpstart and dozens of other partners who are focused in on economic development really provide those essential business services, those connections, as well as capital to wrap those things around entrepreneurs, meeting them where they are in community, from ideation all the way through growth, to ensure that they have the right support, the right connections, and the right services to accelerate their high potential business ideas. This is very tech focused. We are only utilizing this program to work with entrepreneurs who are in the tech startup space. That, of course, cuts across a lot of the typical spaces: healthcare, SaaS, Internet of Things, so on and so forth. But these are all tech-focused, high-potential growth opportunities that we are focused on. We are very fortunate, and again, want to extend our thanks to Cuyahoga County for your recent partnership and investment of $2.5 million towards the Entrepreneurial Services Program for 2022. That forgivable loan is allowing us the ability to access and leverage an additional $6 million through the Ohio Third Frontier to provide these very vital business services. I would emphasize that these services are provided for free. They are driven by not only Jumpstart staff, but also the dozens of partners that we have across the network. And I'll share a little bit more about our network on this next slide. We would not be able to do this work without partnership. It is essential that I underscore and denote that. We have been very fortunate to work with an ecosystem of economic development and entrepreneurial services providers for more than a decade to really optimize and realize the full potential of the ESP program. Many of these partners, as you see noted with the white background, are also partners who are leading in some of these new emergent opportunities that you'll hear about following my comments today. But what is great about this network is that it allows us to be really integrated, coordinated, and aligned around a shared vision for tech-led economic growth in the region and a consistent eye on innovation. The services that we provide are similar, complementary, and then in some instances unique as it relates to the depth of subject matter expertise. With that, the network model allows us to continue to come together routinely to talk about the needs of entrepreneurs, what are the barriers and the challenges that they are experiencing in the field, and more importantly, what are the solutions that we can bring to market together to make sure that they can be supported and accelerate their ideas and get those ideas into the market as quickly as possible and support their overall growth. The three partners that are denoted in the gray represent our network partners in Northwest Ohio, but for the remainder of this conversation, I'll be focusing on Northeast Ohio and the work that we're doing here in Cuyahoga County. So I wanted to highlight a little bit for you what those services and connections look like. We are very committed to meeting entrepreneurs where they are. Again, our focus is in the early startup phase of innovation. That can be working with an individual entrepreneur who has a new idea for a startup that is bringing a solution for healthcare or other facets of industry. It could be working with existing institutions, whether it's an Eaton or a Progressive or a Case Western Reserve, and helping them think through how to take the advanced ideas and technologies that are being derived and developed within their institutional walls and how to help those ideas become commercialized and bring them to market. We also do a lot of cohort-based accelerators. So this is really intensive services that are wrapped around entrepreneurs where they can not only learn together in a peer network, but also receive those core business services and supports that are going to help them grow their business as rapidly as possible. The networking and learning can't be underscored enough, as well as the mentoring. We've been very fortunate to have support and partnership with Burton D. Morgan Foundation, who is particularly invested in mentoring over the long term to ensure that these entrepreneurs can be paired with experienced entrepreneurs in the field who have been tested, who have grown successful businesses, and who can provide real insight and guidance and support to them in real time through a mentoring relationship. You'll see noted here that we've been able to make a pretty substantial impact since 2018. These numbers just reflect Cuyahoga County, so it's an extract for the work that we've done in Northeast Ohio overall, but we've been fortunate that 800 plus entrepreneurs have come directly from Cuyahoga County that we've been able to serve since 2018. And then when you think about the amount of contact and direct service support that we're providing to those entrepreneurs, it's in excess of 83,000 hours since 2018. Economic impact is at the crux of why we do what we do. Again, we believe in the full potential of entrepreneurship, not only to be transformative for the individual entrepreneur, but for the communities that they are part of. We know that entrepreneurship creates jobs, it generates revenue, it creates a tax base, and it keeps us competitive overall. And so this is just a highlight of what some of that impact looks like based on the work that we have been doing in partnership with others through the Entrepreneurial Services Program. So $1.9 billion in economic impact generated collectively by Jumpstart and our partners, again, referencing the slide that I showed you earlier of the Northeast Ohio network partners. Revenue, a little over $900 million. Again, tax base, we have about $91 million for taxes generated from our new startups. And the jobs number is just shy of 4,000. These are tech jobs created by these startup companies located here in Cuyahoga County. So the current ESP program, which was awarded to Jumpstart to support these services for Jumpstart in the network back in 2019, the current program will conclude at the end of this calendar year, 2022. That program and our commitments within that program in partnership with the network really focused on bringing together a cohort of 10 organizations, again, referencing the network slide, to serve 21 counties in Northeast Ohio. We have found that, continuing to leverage the ESP program allows us to develop and continue to refine the essential cross-region connections in Northeast Ohio that allows us to deepen the ecosystem, strengthen the ecosystem, and as I said, align and solve problems in real time to ensure that the access and connections and resources that entrepreneurs need are being met routinely in the most timely and accessible fashion as feasible versus doing this alone or in silos. We also have been able to focus in more on commercialization over this last iteration of the ESP program, building more direct relationships and connections with institutions, so perfect timing with some of our institutional partners stepping in. And again, as I said, helping them not only think through the significance of the technologies that have been being developed and cultivated within their institutional walls, but more importantly, helping them to solve for how to unlock that technology and bring it to market through commercialization. The last 2 points that I would highlight here too is that it has been an essential priority that as we are continuing to bolster innovation in the region, and wrap more services and supports around entrepreneurs, that we have to keep an eye on inclusion and diversity. There were earlier comments acknowledging talent. And in order for us to remain competitive and to make sure that we have individuals that can fulfill the jobs of the future, we have to look at all communities and make sure that we're optimizing the talent across diverse communities. And so collectively, through the ESP program, we have all made commitments to work with, outreach to, and engage and support diverse entrepreneurs with particular emphasis on Black, Hispanic, and women entrepreneurs. And then the last thing that I would note here too is that we have been living this program and supporting entrepreneurs just like everyone through the pandemic. The pandemic has required us all to lean in even more aggressively to our entrepreneurial spirit and acumen and be able to pivot. And so I am glad to report that we did not miss a beat on continuing to support entrepreneurs. We shifted everything from in-person to virtual. Classes continued, mentoring continued, wraparound services support continued, more access to capital was made available as a result of the pain and the challenges that the pandemic has created. And we are very pleased that, the majority of our entrepreneurs have been able to weather that storm and are continuing to gain traction in the growth of their businesses and continuing on this path of successful impact economically. Last few slides here are really just a conversation on how we are doing currently and then an eye towards the future. So Jumpstart conducts a biannual survey where twice a year we engage formally with all of our clients to assess the cumulative economic impact as well as their satisfaction with the services and support that they are receiving from Jumpstart and our partners in the network. This is just a high-level snapshot. There are dozens of metrics that we track year over year. But just to give you a little bit of insight of how we're doing so far, 6 months into 2022, we have just a little over 50% of our goal has been reached for new jobs, for new full-time jobs. And pleased to say that just about 50% of those jobs have been created right here in Cuyahoga County. Revenues are tracking. We are anticipating some greater gains through the end of this summer and into the early fall. We will be conducting this survey again in December with results for the full year available early 2023. But we still feel encouraged that we will be on track to meet this goal overall. And I did not provide the disaggregated data for minorities and women, but if that's something that's of interest, I can follow up with that information and make it available, to the commission. So the good news is that the work will continue, and we have a commitment from the state to partner with Jumpstart and the network to ensure the work continues for another 2.5 years. That new grant will start January of 2023. It will go through June 30th of 2025. So we have another 2.5 years of run ramp through the Ohio Third Frontier ESP program. Again, I would remind you the basis of the rules and the structure of that program still applies. We have to raise dollar for dollar match to fully unlock those resources. We have to serve entrepreneurs across Northern Ohio, and we have a set of metrics in which we will be accountable for achieving, again, ranging from revenue generation, job creation, follow-on investment, capital, et cetera. So the new grant, again, has opened up some additional opportunities for us to push the envelope a little further on innovation overall and to continue to grow opportunities here locally. We've added a new partner, that being Case Western Reserve University, which we are very excited about. We will continue to serve the 21 counties here in Northeast Ohio. Cuyahoga County historically has received a lion's share of the services and support that comes through the ESP program. We have the opportunity now to also scale a number of programs and pilot some new services that will reflect meeting the entrepreneurs where they are and adding additional access to accelerators, different forms of mentoring and coaching. And then one of the things that I'm particularly excited about is this deepened focus around our regional clusters. So health tech and advanced manufacturing in particular have been the two clusters where there has just been an absorbent amount of attention and coordination and collaboration occurring here locally. Again, you'll hear more about that reflected in some of the upcoming comments, but it has really been beneficial for Jumpstart and our partners to have this history of working together in this network model to support entrepreneurs and to have built out a level of subject matter expertise as it relates to health and advanced manufacturing. And so the alignment of these new opportunities that are both providing the opportunity and signaling to us that we need deeper focus and concentration around our regional clusters. The pairing and the coordination of those things coming together at this time is very exciting, and we feel will be significant towards our competitiveness in the near future. And then the last thing that I'll highlight that's really exciting about what's new in the ESP grant is a deepened focus around building the pipeline of the next generation of entrepreneurs. We historically, through the ESP program, have served adults. And this gives us an opportunity to think about internships in a more deepened way, to reach back a little bit further, maybe more around that 18, 19-year-old age range versus early to mid-20s, which we have historically worked with. And it's not just Jumpstart who is thinking about this. We have partners like Magnet and Glide who have elevated and built out more robust internship programs that will help create career pathways in the region to ensure that as our local economy is growing, that we have the talent and a focus around tech-led economic growth and development. So I believe my last two slides, this is just a highlight of what we have projected to the state of Ohio in terms of what our outcomes will be focused on and what we anticipate achieving collectively over the next 2.5 years. So again, revenues, job creation, percentage of those being aligned to minority and women-owned startups, tax bases, new clients served, et cetera. Again, happy to answer questions if you have any. The last thing that I'll state before I turn the microphone over for questions or to our next speakers is that, as Jumpstart continues to think about innovation and the role that we can play as a partner and the value that we can bring to the ecosystem, we think it's important to note that the ESP continues to be a very viable and impactful program that has allowed us to cultivate innovation, accelerate, and scale tech-driven solutions. It is because of this program that we have had, 10 plus years of support that has been able to be matched locally. It has encouraged us to work collaboratively as a network, building solutions together to meet entrepreneurs where they are. It has also helped us to amplify a conversation around entrepreneurship and innovation to help find and draw out those entrepreneurs who are in various places around the county and the region, and to let them know that there are services and support available to really help them grow their ideas. The ecosystem has been essential in this work, and we continue to challenge ourselves individually and collectively to partner more deeply, to ask the hard questions, to solve problems together, and to make sure that we're keeping a commitment around inclusive tech-led economic growth and ensuring that we're meeting entrepreneurs where they are. Investment is essential, and it can't just come from one sector. Being able to align and braid resources from the public, private, as well as philanthropic community has made this program sustainable. It has allowed us to be impactful as well as creative, again, in building those solutions and models and providing the services and support that are of the highest value and of the highest need for entrepreneurs to ensure that we're keeping an acceleration around innovation. And so the last thing that I'll say here is that In part, the success that we have been cultivating through the ESP is helping to position Cuyahoga County to compete for new opportunities. I had said earlier in my comments that partnership and collaboration is essential for us being able to deliver the type of economic impact that we have seen thus far through the ESP program. It is that partnership, it is that collaboration that has set the foundation for the new opportunities such as Build Back Better, as well as the NSF Innovation Engines program, which we are deeply excited about the county having the opportunity to compete for. Because there is a 10-plus year history of partners working together with a focus on entrepreneurship and innovation through the ESP, it already allowed us to have a table and a proximity, a focus and an alignment that we could then leverage and bolster and coordinate around our regional clusters, again, referencing healthcare and advanced manufacturing to help the opportunity become more optimal in terms of our ability to compete. So we are just very excited to be a partner. We're excited about what we are seeing happening across the region as it relates to innovation. We are thankful for the ongoing coordination and cooperation and collaboration happening in and among the network. And, we feel really confident that this is a unique time in the region's history to be a leader when it comes to innovation. And so we are raising our hand to do our part, and we will continue to cheer and co-lead and partner as we can to keep us competitive and ensure that our economy is growing. So with that, I will turn the microphone back over.
Can we take a few questions? So does anybody have any questions for Teleanjay? Councilman Schron.
Thank you, Chairman. For 10 years, what are the specific products that have been innovated that are
Yes, so we have dozens of portfolio companies that have benefited through the program. I can give you the specific list of those companies, but we've had software that has been developed that has helped to serve businesses and provide business solutions, whether that's from HR-related activities to better solutions to drive operations. We've also had some physical technologies that have helped advance procedures in the healthcare market. And I believe there have been a few other along those lines. So we know we are producing products that are beneficial. They range across, a number of aspects, but I'm happy to get that list for you specifically so that you can see what those businesses and products are.
if the county is funding this,
Mhm.
funded, back to economic development, say, this widget and that
Sure.
widget sold X amount of widgets out there. Things that we as
Mhm.
people like to. All the rest of the stuff is nice,
Mhm.
is nice to have, but going out the door and shipping on a shipping.
Understood, and we can follow up with that information.
Sales and the dollars of
Sure, and we can provide that information for those companies that are receiving services directly and that report in the survey. Once those companies exit, they're no longer obligated to report that information to us. So I just share that as a FYI, but we can definitely provide it for the companies that are active clients.
well, so we don't have any kind of on or funds go in to see what how does that say that we sold 0 widgets when we started with this and we're now selling 10 widgets there and
Right, so we do ask for sales revenue, and that is reported through the survey. And then we also have our annual economic impact report that's done by Silverlode, which is a third-party entity that looks at the overall economic impact. But it does not provide the incremental detail on a company-per-company basis.
I mean, the purpose of innovation is to innovate product or service.
Mhm.
Product or service was an innovation
Mhm.
as a result of what we did. Then we ought to be able to trace that back. What's its impact? Dollars, what the products, who is the beneficiary of the third party that actually.
I appreciate that feedback, and I think the other element where we're trying to get better in that regard too is also in the storytelling. So we do have some new publications that have come out to help highlight some of those innovations and some of those partners. So I think between the combination of that as well as the follow-up data, I should be able to get you the answers that you're seeking. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yep. No problem. Thank you. Great, thank you.
I know Magnet does that with the projects that they
Mhm.
develop, solve the solution, and then it resulted.
Good. Anybody else have a question? I have a couple. Can you talk about what is jumps? You talked about collaborations, the importance. You listed a number of organizations. Does Jumpstart have a relationship with Jobs Ohio?
We do in the sense that we have aligned around some of the new emergent opportunities. So Build Back Better is a great example, and I don't want to get ahead of that conversation out of respect of Magnet being the leader. But it is through that collaboration that we've been able to align around some of the priorities of Jobs Ohio, and particularly focus in on the advanced manufacturing cluster. Jumpstart's role in Build Back Better is really around tech commercialization and the wraparound services for entrepreneurs in that space. We also have had a familiar relationship with Jobs Ohio through our engagement with the Cleveland Innovation Project and our partner, Team NEO. So I think the best way I would qualify it is that we're familiar with each other. We have not specifically partnered on a specific project or program, but we have made sure that we've been aligned in terms of goals and priorities for the region.
So when Jobs Ohio and/or Team NEO comes across an opportunity, do they contact Jumpstart?
Correct.
Did they
More
contact
more
Jumpstart?
times than not, yes. We are made aware, we have conversations and figure out if there's opportunities or alignment.
Did Jumpstart get notice of the Intel project before it happened?
I cannot speak to that directly. I was not in those conversations, so I'm not 100% sure.
And what about, I mean, Team NEO is part of, but not exactly the same as Jobs Ohio. Is
Correct.
there a close relationship, any relationship with
Yes.
Team NEO?
Absolutely. We work with them very closely as well, too. A great example of that is through the Cleveland Innovation Project. We have coordinated around topics like talent, of course, looking at the healthcare cluster. How do we continue to make that more robust, continue to build out opportunities for innovation, bringing more technologies to market. So again, I would say, have a strong collaborative spirit in relationship with both as we're understanding what the needs are in the market and aligning and trying to find ways to solve these problems together or do work collectively and collaboratively that would be beneficial to the region.
If I follow up with this a little bit more. So Jobs Ohio and Team NEO apparently are getting more and more inquiries from companies around places, not startups necessarily, but existing companies that want to do something here. Do you get involved with that at all? Do you have an opportunity to bring in the county or the city or Greater Cleveland Partnership or others when that happens? If that happens?
We believe in the power of referral. You know, Jumpstart's expertise really is in the startup space when it comes to tech. And then on the small business side, they can be existing businesses or new. And so the beauty of the collaboration and the coordination and having partnerships like CIP allows us to be able to refer appropriately if we're not the right entity from kind of a lead perspective or from a subject matter expertise perspective, to then put them in contact with a partner like Team Neo or others.
Well, I understand. I think you guys do a great job with the startups, from what I see. Although having the information Councilman Schran was asking for would be helpful. But, you know, there's other parts of innovation than just startups. There's, you know, bringing in an Intel, for example, is innovation, you know, to
Correct.
be able to, you know, produce chips in a particular location involves all kinds of innovative activities. So the question comes, I'm being told that there may be other chip companies that are interested or other related companies. And I'm just wondering, is that in or out of Jumpstart's expertise?
It is in Jumpstart's bandwidth as it relates to us being an ambassador and a champion for the region and wanting to attract talent and opportunities and capital. It is not what we do specifically in our core services. Our core services are really focused around serving and supporting entrepreneurs, whether it's on the tech side or in the small business. But absolutely, as we are networking, as we are creating relationships, we are intentional about identifying where those opportunities might be. And as I said, you know, creating pathways and connecting them back to the right entity or institution or leader who could help carry those conversations forward.
Yeah, I was just going to add on, as it relates to business attraction or business expansion, a couple things. So one, we do have transparency as the Greater Cleveland Partnership with Team Neo, with Jobs Ohio, in terms of what that pipeline looks like, leads and projects, whether it's in innovation spaces or otherwise. The second is with Team Neo and our partner chambers around the Northeast Ohio region, we do now have a semiconductor and electric vehicle task force that's been set up specifically to support the development of supply chain opportunities, not only around the Columbus investment, but around the major EV investments in Lorain and in Youngstown. And there's a lot of pipeline that's building up there. From a county perspective, and you know, we've had this conversation with Paul in particular, it's all about sites. Right? We need to have ready sites that are available so that businesses that are looking to expand operations, they don't need to wait for either site assembly or site remediation. The competition out there right now, not just within our state, but across the country, it's about how quickly can you get me into business. So sites is the number one threshold question, and after sites, it's talent. Can we produce the talent locally to make sure that these operations can staff up? Those are the threshold things that we need to continue to solve as a system. But there is great collaboration, to use Teleandre's word. Paul and I are actually on a call later today, a quarterly call that we have with the City of Cleveland, with Team Neo, with GCP, to keep working on these strategic issues.
So the workforce pipeline is something that you've helped us with a great deal, and the county is taking the lead.
The county's sector partnership leadership is critical in this, right? Because it is all about immediate pipeline. It's not, long-term is important as well, of course, pre-K all the way up, but these businesses are making decisions on how can they get into business within the next 2 years. So the sector partnerships are essential, the community colleges are essential. That's a critical part of how we expect to be able to solve some of the employer needs that are out there.
And on the site issue, Paul's taking the lead internally for us to create a list or lists of available sites, which available being in the broad sense being
Right.
sites out there, whether they're prepared or not is a secondary question.
Right, and that's critical, and I know Team Neo just put an RFP out to help evaluate some of the sites in Cuyahoga County in particular, making sure that there's a portfolio of really ready marketable sites that they can offer into these project opportunities.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything for Taliange before she sits down? She's about to sit down? No? Okay, let's go on to the
Okay,
next one.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Paul? who's
So
next?
Armin, I'm very pleased to be able to get Brandon Massara and Allison Botros both to come speak to us, representing respectively the Lerner Research Institute at the clinic and IBM. Big names. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I'm Brandon. This is Allison. We're going to give you an overview of the Discovery Accelerator today, which is our 10-year, $160 million partnership that we closed on last year. In addition, much like our predecessors, we're going to talk about the National Science Foundation's Regional Innovation Engine opportunity, for which we applied to. And then lastly, we'll just close with some discussion and questions. Any
Do you
other
have the
expectations
slides?
of what you hope to get out of this? Please let us know. Are you advancing or do we advance?
So just a little bit on our backgrounds. I have a MBA from University of Chicago. I've been living in Cleveland for 17 years and been with IBM for almost 20 years. So as a strategy consultant, and then been working in our research portfolio around innovation and how do we help industry partners innovate using IBM research technologies.
Again, I'm Brandon, so I'm the program manager for our newly found Center for Computational Life Sciences at the Cleveland Clinic. That is a derivative of our Lerner Research Institute. You probably pass it on Carnegie all the time. And then in addition to that, Allison is my counterpart at IBM. I'm the program strategy and operations lead for the partnership. So we're the day-to-day operators. We're the ones that turn what the enterprise needs into English for each other, deploying IBM's infrastructure and our scientific know-how. So in case you didn't see this from our press release last year, just wanted to orient the group. We really like these two powerful quotes from our leaders, and Dr. Mahalovic and Arvin. So when you think about putting the medicine brand of the Cleveland Clinic, the global brand of the Cleveland Clinic together with IBM's brand and technology, only good things should happen. So we just like to start out our presentations with these to resonate with our audience, and I think they really hit the nail on the head when they told the world this happens to be CNBC, what we hope to get out of the partnership. So I'll start us out here. From a Cleveland Clinic perspective, our leaders, Dr. Serpil Erzurum, who's really leading the charge around the Cleveland Innovation District and the Cleveland Clinic's part in that, all the way down, this statistic really seems to resonate. You know, it takes 17 years right now to get from bench to bedside, as we call it, and that's just not acceptable. I mean, everyone's trying our hardest. It took the pandemic to accelerate getting vaccines out. But when you have everyone focused on one priority and one mission, look at what can happen. So that 17 years is not good enough for us, so we hope to close the gap. But when you hear the term accelerated discovery, to us, it's shortening that 17 years, to us as in the Cleveland Clinic. And then in our partner, Allison will dive into what does accelerated discovery mean to IBM.
Right, so on our side, accelerated discovery is a key priority for IBM research. It's all around the sort of business methodology, or like the scientific method, and applying that to business. So how can we take science and accelerate the pace of discovery, and also take advantage of different technologies to tap into things that weren't even possible before? So IBM has a history of innovating around technology, particularly information technology. And so you can imagine, think of the evolution around bits, right? So classical computing was all around just computer bits, right? And that will never go away, right? We still have classical computing for many years to come. But quantum computing is taking those bits and applying it at a whole different level. It's really transformational. And the promise of what's available from quantum computing can really transform industries like healthcare, like material science, and climate change. And then we also think of neurons, right? So you think of how the brain operates, and that's artificial intelligence and machine learning. So our partnership takes all three of those technologies. So classical computing, including hybrid cloud, AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and then quantum computing. So with IBM's sort of horizontal focus on technology combined with the Cleveland Clinic's sort of industry focus around healthcare and life sciences, that's where the beauty of the partnership really comes alive. And I think part of the reason that we found each other as partners is, IBM could have partnered with other healthcare organizations. The Cleveland Clinic could have partnered with other technology companies. And what we found was that our cultures are very much aligned. So both organizations have an inherent culture towards research. The Cleveland Clinic just celebrated their 100-year anniversary. And from the day one, we've always been focused on research, right? IBM, similarly, has always had a really strong history around research, core foundational research. And so it's that collaboration as well as the shared culture around research and innovation that really also is very positive for our partnership.
Yeah, that's well said, Allison. As you look at bits, neurons, and qubits, that really hit home with us. Classical computing right now is almost table stakes. We're all using them right now in our pockets, on our desks. Neurons, if you walk into any room right now and drop the term artificial intelligence, that's almost becoming table stakes. We need to make sure we're at par. But qubits, we feel that as part of this partnership, we are the first movers in life sciences, dabbling in quantum computing, and it happens to be here in Cleveland, centered in the Innovation District. We'll get into that in a second. So I'm going to let Allison walk through the 5 buckets, but I just wanted to share our sanctioned mission and vision. So, we hope to accelerate discovery, as we just got done mentioning. We hope to educate the workforce of the future and creating those jobs to grow our economy. So right now, there's not too much talent out there that knows quantum computing, but we hope to build that up in our region. We hope to build up all the other technologies, data sciences, starting in K through 12 and on. And we have examples of what we've done in the first 8 months of partnership coming up. But Allison, do you want to walk us through our 5 buckets?
Yeah, so these 5 pillars are really how we've sort of prioritized our mission and the actions that we're doing. So the first is around partnership. So, IBM is making a big investment in this partnership, and so is the Cleveland Clinic. It truly is a partnership, right? So it's not just IBM as a service provider to the Cleveland Clinic. IBM's making an investment in this joint Discovery Accelerator. In addition, we're looking for other partners, right? So are there other industry organizations that would want to join forces with us and perhaps do research projects together with us? The government funding, right? So we're applying for the NSF Regional Innovation Engine. That would bring in new parties and new funding to this collaboration. And then even working with academia, right? So we're talking to Case Western, we're talking to Kent State University, to Cleveland State. We've had a lot of conversations with Cleveland State and with CMSD, just around different forms of partnerships and investments into the program. Enablement, that's really around our technology platform. So that is IBM's core technologies brought forward and bringing in the life sciences technology together. So this is the installation of the physical quantum system right here in Cleveland. It's the very first private installation of a quantum system outside of an IBM location. And it's our underlying hybrid cloud and AI and other technologies. So that's the enablement side. Discover is really around the new research, right? So IBM is 3,000 researchers all around the world. So which of those want to partner with LRI and the Research Institute at the Cleveland Clinic and all of the researchers there? And we'll go over some examples of those Discover projects. Educate is something that I think Taliandri touched on, and I think would be of interest to this commission, is around the mission to, educate the workforce of the future. So IBM has done a lot of investment into open education around quantum. You could go to IBM Quantum website and start to learn quantum on your own. There's a lot of open source education, but we're also developing educational programs, specific to the Cleveland Clinic caregivers, their employees. So there's a lot of education around AI, hybrid cloud, and quantum for the Cleveland Clinic employees. But then also, how do we reach out into the community, right? So one of our important work streams is around education and outreach. And that's where we've connected with CMSD and Cleveland State and others. And we'll show an example of that as well with an internship. And then finally promote, right, whatever the new scientific discoveries are and the new innovation. You know, we want to get that out there into the world and disseminate that into the scientific community so that other people can benefit from these insights.
Thanks, Allison. So from a scientific perspective, what you're looking at here are non-exhaustive list of our priority research areas. So high performance computing, also known as what's known as hybrid cloud, we need to address our immediate storage needs. So we are bursting at the seams with the amount of data that is being generated every single day from patients and scientists, from wearables to the EMR, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the first things we need to do with IBM is make sure we have the infrastructure so that we can satisfy those needs. Then all the way down to artificial intelligence. There's this big notion right now, what's known as a digital twin. So we hope that in the very near future, as part of clinical trials, we can stop poking people as much and we can actually build a digital twin of you so that we can run experiments and simulations based on your biology as opposed to bringing you into clinic each time to do blood work, et cetera. Computer-aided drug design is a huge one. This one falls into AI and quantum, and then computational biology. So when I mentioned that we're a first mover in quantum and life sciences, you'll find that there's some use cases right off the cuff that we're hoping to embark on. We actually just won a grant with the Department of Defense, the subset of the Department of Defense, DARPA, and DARPA has given us a grant to actually benchmark quantum capabilities against classical. So where does classical fall short in some of these domains that you're looking at? Image matching, clinical trial optimization. Hopefully everyone in the room knows just how much it costs to run a clinical trial and how long it takes. If you can model that using this new technology, imagine how much you could save industry and locally in our area. And then precision medicine, this notion of omics and genomics and personalized medicine, that is what we hope to uncover as part of this partnership.
That DARPA award is just the tip of the iceberg, right? We're applying to other federal awards for things like that. But it's the very first time that DARPA is investing in quantum in Cleveland, right? So because of this partnership. So that's really exciting. We want to see more and more of that. Okay.
But I just have to ask, what is quantum? You have to explain.
Thank you.
I'm a little bit lost.
Sure. So we should, as a follow-up, send out a great white paper on what quantum computing is. Perhaps that should have been a pre-read. But quantum, you're no longer limited to ones and zeros in the binary computational world. You can now model, and you can flip that upside its head. And so when you think about modeling a molecule and all of the electrons and that simulation, you can now essentially predict that before you actually take it to the bench to bedside. Allison, you're the tech expert. Any other elevator speeches on quantum?
No, you did a good job,
Okay.
actually. So if you think of how long it takes to do traditional computation, it's using the bits. So it's either a 1 or a 0 in doing that computation. In quantum computing, it doesn't have to be a 1 or a 0. It can be both at the same time. That's called entanglement. So it basically allows you to do computation at a much faster pace. That's like the simplest way of thinking about it. So something, if you're evaluating a new molecule, right, and you run it through a certain algorithm or program, maybe it takes you a month to do that. Like the scientist plugs it into their computer program and goes and does something else for a month. Or maybe it takes a year, right? If you have quantum computing to apply a similar algorithm and a similar approach, it could take you days instead. So it's just a different way of the computer analyzing and working with the data. So.
But it's a lot more than just throwing additional RAM, random access memory onto your computer. Not how much you can do at once, it's the long game.
Crystal clear.
We'll get Andy to explain it.
Yeah. We're not quantum physicists, but we hope to train them.
Remember, we're both the MBAs on the team, not the scientists, but that's a good, simple definition of it.
Absolutely. We take it for granted that that's a household name because it is in our partnership. But
that's a good question. We should have started with that. Thank you.
So we have 8 priority domains. I touched a little bit on this on the last slide, but when you talk about the next frontier of technologies, these, and even for the audience in the room, the executives in the room, you take a look at these prioritized domains, and this is what we're all in on. So we do statements of work in our partnership. and we give each other in-kind contribution. A lot of investment was made on the front end. So when scientists come to us, we matchmake with a scientist at the Cleveland Clinic, with a scientist at IBM, or an engineer at IBM, and we focus on these 8 domains. And this is publicly available, but I mean, these are our 8 areas where we feel this partnership can truly accelerate. Omics is taking all of the biological elements, not just your height, weight, BMI that we traditionally look at. It's everything from the metabolic makeup of yourself. So that's a whole nother thing we can send you a white paper on, which is personalized medicine in the omics space. We have an entire genomic medicine institute at the Cleveland Clinic now.
I did not see anything about how we attack this.
Yep.
Yeah, I
you're
think it's,
spot on.
I was just gonna say, I would think it would be scattered across drug discovery, population health, behavioral health, maybe even physiology. It's kind of sprinkled across all of those areas.
These are very much our 8.
Discussed as a treatment,
Right.
opposed to an actual.
For prevention of some
Is
sort,
there an
right?
invention out there? Are there multiple inventions out there?
Absolutely, Jack. I mean, it definitely falls into population behavior and to some level discovery. These are just our umbrella terms, but we would hope that we have those statements of work we talk about in these. Yeah.
Solve this.
All right. We're not going to spend too much time on this, but talking about the amount of projects that we're doing. We're 8 months into our partnership. Our executives signed it at the close of December last year. And so we have 10 projects in our pipeline. We're now doing quarterly requests for proposals, in which case we do it for our respective communities. So we put out an RFP to the clinic and an RFP to IBM, and then we match make. And we hope to get in 30, 40 projects in a quarter. And then a good problem to have is going to be triaging our resources in those 8 domains. Maybe we need to come up with other domains. So Allison spoke to education, and you gave an overview of what our education group is working to do. Before I give it over to Allison, this is just a feel-good story, and it's the right thing to do. So News Channel 5 in February brought us this young gentleman, this 16-year-old student at the John Marshall School of Information Technology. His name is Musa. Musa wants to be a quantum physicist when he grows up. And I don't know about you guys when you were 16 what you were doing, but I was not looking at quantum code. So Musa, we white coded him, and we surprised him with a white coat at his school, and the CMSC has just been phenomenal partners, and we hope to scale this model. And in a matter of 2 months, we built it our first ever internship with Musa as our first inaugural student. And in the bottom, you can see him presenting what qubits, bits, and others are, and he looks like a professor, for goodness sake. In the top right, you see the code that he actually written. I know it's a bit of an eye test on these screens, but he is writing what's called Python code, and he's writing code so that the quantum computer can talk to it, all because IBM has open source education that we were able to build into a curriculum and ultimately put him through a 6-week program where he walks away with a certificate heading into his senior year to be certified in what's known as KISKIT. Allison, would you have anything else to add about our education work stream?
Yeah, so on Musa Wasopa specifically, so he heard about the partnership through our press release in March of the previous year. He read the press release and went to his teacher and said, I want to work with Cleveland Clinic and IBM someday. And then he went and took, I think during that school year, he had taken a class that IBM sponsors through the coding school called Qubit by Qubit. So it's an introductory class to quantum computing for high school students all over the country. And it's offered to some students at CMSD, right? This could be something that's taken during the school day, kind of supervised by a local teacher, or it can be sort of an after-school program that kids do independently. We'd like to have more kids in the Cleveland region take this class, right? Inspire more kids to be like Musa, right? So this year, the Cleveland Clinic was incredible in standing up this internship so quickly for one student. And we hope next year to have more internships from IBM and the Cleveland Clinic together in Cleveland, right, for high school students and possibly college. We're still working through the details on that, but you know, to do that more of that ground roots, right, starting with younger people to get exposure to this. So by the time they go off to college, right, they know that they may want to study physics or information technology or something along those lines.
And you know, the Jobs Ohio initiative was brought up in a previous session. You know, I know that this is just 0.3 of an FTE, but this was a paid intern that we brought in. And, you know, Allison and others at IBM are just the first of several full-time dedicated employees that they're bringing locally to Cleveland. Now, you might be thinking, why start at the high school level? Well, because we have to. We have to build that pipeline. That was a theme I heard in the audience. And so if I go back to that statement of work slide, we have statements of work to train our current workforce, you know, our postdocs, our PhDs, our medical doctors. However, starting at this level just allows us to procure that optimum data scientist someday. And then quickly we can go through what Quantum System 1 is. This is all you, Allison, in terms of IBM's roadmap and what you're deploying in Cleveland.
Yeah, so IBM initially was going to be installing a 27-qubit system called our Falcon system. And we've since decided to upgrade the Cleveland Clinic to a 127-qubit system. And that just means more capacity, more compute power, more oomph for what we want to do together. So that's what we'll be installing at the end of the first quarter of 2023.
First one in
That particular system will be the first one in the United States. Yeah.
massive security, because that can only
Security is a major thrust. So we've been working with the Cleveland Clinic police force. The IBM security team our IBM quantum team has actually a dedicated security group, not just cybersecurity, but physical security. Yeah, both. Yep. And that was a big part of like where we selected the location for the system itself. Absolutely. Yep.
And this is just a picture of Carnegie Avenue, our Learner Research building. So to your point, Jack, we are actually putting this in the Learner Research Institute on Carnegie Avenue, about 500 feet from the road. And then right here to your right, we have Arvind Krishna on the left and Dr. Tom Mahalovic on the right. That was currently our construction zone, and it's now about to break ground. So I'm going to speed us along a little bit here for the sake of time, but when you talk about regional opportunity, this Discovery Accelerator is just one of the first handshakes that we've had at the Cleveland Clinic with outside. You know, you see things like the Myers store going up in the Innovation District and others, but IBM was the first big tech partner, and right now the only big tech partner to come to us and say, we want to be part of this. So on the left, you just understand, if you check all those boxes of what this partnership can do as part of the broader strategy in Cuyahoga County and Ohio, and then on the right, we're going to get into a little bit, knowing that we're not NSF in particular, we're going to go over our proposal with the Regional Innovation Engine. Would you like to go over the NSF?
Yeah, I can cover this one. So NSF announced a brand new directorate called Technology, Innovation, and Partnership. One of the first times they've had a new directorate in quite a while. And that's the organization that's funding and facilitating these regional innovation engines. And the whole idea is to bring innovation not just at the coasts, but into, you know, the heartland of the country. The United States used to invest a lot more as a percentage of its GDP on foundational research than it does today. And I think TIP is trying to change that a bit. So that's the mission of that new directorate.
And then when you hear the term engine, this is $160 million that a Type 2 award will go after for 10 years. We have upwards of 30 partners at the ready to collaborate on this proposal. We just found out that our concept outline was approved to the next step. So there's about, 170 applications, I want to say, for Type 2 awards. and we're one of them, so it's very competitive. But we hope to merge with our other regional partners in Michigan, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Indiana, to come up with a pretty robust engine. Because that 160 million is great at the outset, but we need to sustain ourselves, and that's where the innovation comes in. We need to make sure, for instance, you actually have to hire a CEO to run your engine. That's a contingency of being awarded. So we hope to sustain this. And I think some of our other partners will talk about type 1 if they haven't already. We're particularly going after type 2. Quickly, what is an engine? I don't think I have to tell everyone in the room, but this is driving R&D, and it's building that inclusive ecosystem. So I know very elementary, but this visual, you have the engine in the middle, and then you're building that ecosystem around it, and that's what we hope to do in the Midwest, centered in Cleveland. And then Allison, this is the words that come to mind. So of those 170 applications throughout the United States, this is just a word cloud of the topics. So you can see that somewhere in there, things like AI and health equity, health are buried in there, bioeconomy, workforce development. Our particular proposal is titled Achieving Health Equity Through Accelerated Discovery and Employment, abbreviated AHEAD. And so we hope using the multi-modalities that we have and those 30 partners that I mentioned, that we can put together a robust proposal.
So that proposal is with other hospital systems in the region. It's with Jumpstart. Jumpstart actually did a phenomenal job with NSF. They were one of the speakers at the national level when NSF was announcing this program and doing roadshows for different locations. Jumpstart presented, right? And so it just shows the leadership that Jumpstart has, not just in Northeast Ohio, but nationally for the work that it does.
Cases on board, the VA, you name them in the area, they're on board to join us in this. So with that being said, that's our presentation. Happy to take questions at the time.
Those word clouds work. Largest two words were advanced manufacturing.
Yep.
Therefore, that
was the most common of all the submissions. So
that's kind of nice for Northeast Ohio because it dominates. But manufacturing is twice the size of medical as far as the GDP.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go as far to say that there were probably 30 to 40 advanced manufacturing proposals. Ours is a lot smaller, and with the NSF giving $560 million awards, we hope that rises us to the top so that there's a niche for respective disciplines.
Yeah, so they're only funding 5 engines, right? So I think it's a long shot, right? 170 applications, and only 5 are getting funded, but so far it looks like the joint one here being led by the clinic is differentiated.
We have a perfect marriage between
Just to digress, I guess, for a minute, because based on what you've said, I was listening for IBM Watson. I was listening for Explorers. You painted this as, this is a 9-month or so relationship. But in fact, I thought IBM came to Cleveland with the Watson and purchased Explorers a few years ago.
Yep.
And started a relationship with the Cleveland Clinic. Is that dead? Where is that now?
So IBM divested its Watson Health assets, and Explorers was one of those. So it's now called Meritive. It's a separate company from IBM. IBM no longer owns the Explorers assets. So
No longer has Watson?
it still has Watson, but not Watson Health. So Watson is sort of our AI realm. So when I talked earlier about the horizontal versus the vertical, IBM is really doubling down on our horizontal technologies. So technologies that can be applied into any industry domain versus, and then partnering with people like the Cleveland Clinic to provide that deep, really deep industry domain like healthcare. So we still have scientists that are doing healthcare research, but it's all focused on the foundational, horizontal technologies. That's the shift that IBM is making, moving away from Watson Health focus and more into the horizontal side of the technology that we do. So more focused on AI and hybrid cloud.
Is IBM Health still in Cleveland?
IBM still has
Or the
people
former?
working in Cleveland, yeah, but IBM Health, Watson Health as a business was divested.
But is that divested business still in Cleveland, or has that gone somewhere else or died?
I don't know where the new company is taking that.
And so what is the timeline on, I mean, I know you're busy right now with the Accelerator and seeking grants, it sounds like is one of the major initiatives. Where does that stand? What's the timeline on that? When do you expect to hear about this big grant that you're talking about, one of out of
The Type 2 engine is, so the concept outline was just approved last month, and then we have until January to put out a letter of intent and ultimately a full-blown proposal. So we expect to hear, that's not going to come to fruition until at least probably late Q2, Q3 of next year. So it's definitely a ramp-up time. As I mentioned, we actually have to hire a CEO if awarded in that time frame. So that is a long-term play. Our short-term plays are reaching out to the government, shaking hands with industry. We've reached out to some drug companies to do statements of work with us. And right now, pharmaceutical has their eyes on quantum computing, especially, as you can imagine, getting to market faster. So we hope to partner with them. So there's stimulus locally and more short plays, and then there's long-term plays with some of those big awards we were talking about.
And if, let's say you get awarded a grant, one of these big grants that you're talking about, and it happens, sometime next year, and then it takes a while to ramp it up and, get going, and then the government changes in 2024. Does that impact the grant?
Usually once a grant's committed, it's not withdrawn, right? They commit to that government funding. But in the interim, there's a lot of funding that our partnerships are giving to the work itself. So we've started projects without any government funding, just by our two organizations investing in the partnership. So work is starting already without that.
And how many employees do you have right now between the two of you working on this project in Cleveland?
I haven't counted, actually.
Yeah, wow. So many hands in the pot.
Because IBM has labs all over the world, so we have researchers that are contributing to those 10 projects that we listed earlier, from a couple of our European labs, our lab in California, our lab in New York. But I haven't counted how many people, that adds up to. And then we have all of our work stream leaders. So Brandon and I are the overall strategy leads. We have our directors above us. We have a steering committee and an executive governance board. And then our AI work stream leader, our quantum work stream leader, education work stream leader, and then all the teams underneath them. Quite a few
So
people.
the two of you in Cleveland, start with that.
Oh, yeah. Born and raised in Cleveland. I'm a Clevelander, and my counterpart, yep.
Yeah.
I'm a full-time Cleveland Clinic employee. Allison's dedicated from IBM to be in Cleveland.
Good.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks for your time.
Thank you. And executive, I need to take a time check. We posted this for 11:30. Case is here, but, committee members may have other obligations.
So the people from CASE, what is your schedule? Are you able to stay? Are you able to come back? What's the?
Stay, or we can come back, whatever suits the committee.
What's the preference of the committee?
You're here. They're here, I'm here.
10 minutes?
Great.
Yep.
Great.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
So while they do the tech, I'll note that our next meeting will be in November. Date, time, and place to be arranged. Certainly in person. We're not expecting any change in that. Appreciate those who came out today to make sure we had a quorum.
Is there any follow-up information people would like to get from the IBM clinic people?
Would it be possible, Paul, to circulate the slides?
I have the slides. That's easy.
That'd be
Yes.
great. Thank you.
And I think a couple websites you guys referred to. Anything you want to send me, I'll circulate to the group. Yes,
And send me something on quantum.
yes, yes. I was mentioning Andy Johnson, who's our IT director, so we're going to go back and say, hey, Andy, can you say this again?
So thanks, everyone. We'll get started. My name is Nick Barrett. I'm here from Case Western Reserve University with Lisa Camp. On behalf of the university, thank you to County Executive Budish, Director Herdig, and the Commission for letting us talk about this today. So our focus is going to be on the manufacturing side, to your comments earlier, Jack, and really focusing on this engines opportunity. So it's no surprise, I think, to anyone here that the way we've been conducting manufacturing for the last several hundred years is not long-term sustainable, right? We look around at the impacts of climate change, geopolitical issues around energy, material resources, supply chain disruptions from the pandemic. On the other side, we see these efforts from large corporations to commit to certain ESG targets around greenhouse gas emissions. Industry contributes something like 30% of total greenhouse gas emissions in the US. We see shifting consumer sentiments. We see some increasing regulatory aspects of this from the EU and the SEC and others around making our economy overall more sustainable. So we see this gap, right, in how do we move from what we think of as a linear economy, extracting resources, producing components, parts, shipping them to consumers, using them, and then they end up in a landfill, to what we think of as a circular economy, right, where we're more intentional about material selection going into products, the extraction of those resources, the design, the processing, the energy efficiency, and then how do we remove the constituent materials from those components and reuse them. This doesn't happen accidentally. It requires a whole innovation ecosystem. So, oops, sorry, I'm getting the right button, there we go. So the opportunity we see is this NSF engines opportunity that our colleagues from the clinic referred to earlier. And the National Science Foundation's observation is that the innovation ecosystems in the US, the ones that are truly successful regionally, you can probably count on one hand. We haven't really capitalized the innovation capital of the US and how to take advantage of these regions that have not seen this. The NSF is also very clear that this is not a 2-year investment, a 5-year investment. This is a decade or longer with public-private partnerships to change the equation. So, the engine's goal, right, is how do we catalyze and accelerate regional scale, inclusive research and development, and create this ecosystem throughout the US, advancing critical technologies, addressing societal challenges, promoting economic growth and job creation, cultivating regional talent, and focusing on these partnerships, right? These public-private partnerships, academia, government, industry, as needed. So the vision, right, is Greater Cleveland, which has a strong manufacturing legacy, but if we don't start moving the needle, we're going to lose out on opportunities to other areas. And this ties into efforts across the region. So it works with the Cleveland Innovation Project and the Make It Better Blueprint. So we've been involved and engaged with all elements here and leverages the Build Back Better Regional Challenge that Magnet led for the region, right? And the way to think about this is the Build Back Better Regional Challenge, or BBBRC, because it's just fun to say, is really focused on the here and now, right? How do we take existing technologies and industries and bolster them and grow those economies? The Regional Innovation Engine is focusing on where is the puck going around attacking national security issues and global issues, and how do we start to position regions there from a workforce and talent development standpoint, translation of research, use-inspired research. So we think about foundational research, which is what the National Science Foundation is focused on since World War II, right? Vannevar Bush and all that. How do we prepare scientists and engineers and keep pushing the boundaries of knowledge? The TIP Directorate that we talked about is focusing on how do we move and forward on the technology side, the implementation, the use-inspired, that we sort of lost maybe with sort of the de-integration of what we think of as vertical manufacturing, right? Where companies would do all the design, the execution and processing and transportation on their own. Those have been distributed now. So how do we recreate that use-inspired research where the faculty researchers, the industry researchers are closer to the problems to help inform the research that they're doing. So we're preparing a planning grant with our partners. The core partners at this point include Cleveland State, Case Western Reserve University, Team NEO, GCP, Jumpstart, Magnet, the Urban League of Greater Cleveland, and the Northeast Ohio Hispanic Center for Economic Development. So much like the Build Back Better Regional Challenge, inclusiveness, DEI&A, have to be woven throughout. It's not a separate component of the proposal and the effort. It needs to be front and center. How do we do this much more inclusively? Because if we look at a lot of the successful innovation ecosystems out there in the US, many of them, frankly, haven't been that inclusive in how they've moved forward from a regional standpoint. So we think we can do this. We can leverage the federal funding. There's a window of opportunity. We have all the right leaders, including some at the table here, helping us move this forward from a regional perspective. So we are focused on a type 1 proposal. The NSF Engine's opportunity has two different types, type 1, type 2. Type 2 is what the clinic is focusing on. We are focusing on 1, which is a development or planning grant that would provide $1 million of funding over 2 years to build out the full detailed roadmap, right, of how to bring all of these elements to bear on the problem. Our submission deadline is a lot sooner. It's just about a month away, not that anyone's sweating. And the goal of this, of course, is to lead to not a type 2 implementation proposal in 2 years. We'll be submitting, in September. We probably won't know from NSF. They take 6 to 9 months typically for these kinds of projects to get back to us. So we hope by this time next year we know where we're at and what we're doing. Of course, the side effect of these efforts isn't just that goal of getting to type 2. There are already other proposals that are being created out of these collaborations that have been happening really for several years now between the universities, GCP, Team NEO, Magnet, and others around engineering research centers out of NSF, Department of Energy funding, the sector partnership efforts, et cetera. So the asks are around engagement and commitment. So on the engagement side, we're looking for all of you to provide your insights and thought leadership so we can put together the most compelling, competitive proposal to the National Science Foundation. They're going to be funding 50 of the Type 1 awards. The competition is steep. There is something on the order of 400 and some proposals for concept papers. There's going to be some fall off from some of the orgs. We know we'll not be able to pull everything together. There'll be some consolidation. But it's a pretty stiff competition. So looking for that level of engagement. And then thinking about and articulating the role or roles that you or your organization would provide in this planning award when it's granted to help us develop the more full-fledged form of the engine. What are all the pieces that we can pull together from the city governments, the county governments, the state, federal agencies, our industry partners, and all of our nonprofits and academic institutions. The commitments, right? We're looking for existing or new resources that could be committed, right? Existing being existing programs that are aligned that could be partially directed to support this planning effort, pilot fundings, whatever those things might be, or new resources that would be specifically committed to support this effort. These can be fractional FTEs, they can be commitments to do analyses, right? They need to be tangible, not goodwill. They need to be focused on the effort. And we have to capture these in a letter of collaboration. The National Science Foundation is a very specific way for us to capture these. We don't need a letter of support, we need a letter of collaboration or commitment. So we can go deeper on this, but if you're not already engaged, please feel free to contact me for a deeper briefing. We'll bring together Dr. Michael Oakes from Case Western Reserve University, our new Senior Vice President for Research, who's leading the project with myself and Lisa and a whole host of other partners. And we'll go deeper on this. So with that, I know we're short on time, so I went quickly. Questions? Yeah.
You talked about city and county, you talked about collaboration.
So Jeff Epstein and the team from the mayor's office are deeply engaged with this. We have conversations going on with the Council of Mayors to start getting their engagement. We have conversations going on with Team NEO and Jobs Ohio to get Jobs Ohio engaged in this because it'll tie clearly to their manufacturing efforts, much like Build Back Better and the Blueprint tie together with this. Well, that's why I'm here today. We've had some conversations with Catherine, but just as a beginning point.
Yes. Yeah, I was just going to note, Armin, Catherine is our link here, and I anticipate we'll be working on this before 29th September.
Catherine's been a frequent collaborator on a number of different issues. So. Yeah. I lead a multidisciplinary institute called ISACS, the Institute for Smart, Secure, and Connected Systems, working on the multiple projects within the university, engineering, medicine, nursing, et cetera, and off campus. So Team NEO, Magnet, and CASE, for instance, are partners on a Department of Energy award for a Smart Manufacturing Innovation Center. I help lead those efforts on campus. We are kind of the point for the Build Back Better work on campus, working with Lisa and Jim McGuffin-Colley, who you may know, runs ThinkBox. So I teach engineering. I'm a hardcore nerd. I spent 20 years in industry building products.
So I want to say this nicely.
Sure.
You know, I've become pretty friendly with my counterpart in Pittsburgh, in Allegheny County. And I've talked many times. I come back and always put more things on Catherine's desk when we do this, about how they've moved so well,
yeah,
in my view, ahead of us. And one of their strengths is their universities. They, you know, engineering is becoming the big, you know, if it's already been, you know, it's
yeah,
hugely important, especially in the manufacturing fields and technology fields. And, you know, we were, Case Western, when it was Case, was one of the, you know, top 2 or 3 institutions in the country. It's not Carnegie Mellon anymore. And Carnegie Mellon is, you know, one of the big feeders, as is University of Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Is there a role for the county and the city to help Case get back to that position?
Yes. So let me take a step back. When I got engaged with this effort a couple of years ago, the Cleveland Foundation has funded the work. Lisa's coming up to help me with this. The Cleveland Foundation has funded the work of building a collaboration between Case and Cleveland State to both increase capacity at both campuses for research in engineering and science, and start to work on that, what you brought up. If we look at some of our comparables, Pittsburgh has done a very solid job of moving from metals to mines, as Richie refers to it, right, or eds and meds. And we're probably a little behind on that. And how can we better collaborate between, if we look at what Carnegie Mellon and UPitt have done, you know, the Software Engineering Institute, the Robotics Institute, ARM, all of those efforts have led to significant increases in their gross regional product that would not have happened without those. So part of our role here is better connecting the campus with regional economic development activities to help make that happen. And the county and the city definitely have a role to play. Lisa?
So hi, Lisa Camp. I'm a chief of staff in the office of the provost. The provost is the number 2 at the university. And so I'm glad I'm here today. And thank you, Nick, for doing the presentation. And thank you for that question. It is a new day in the city. We have new leadership at Case Western Reserve University with Eric Kaler at the helm. He has prioritized research as the #1 priority for our institution because we are a great institution. I want to make sure I say that. We are a great institution, but we absolutely can be even better, and he is committed to making us better. One of his first moves was to hire Dr. Michael Oakes. He could not be here today because he's out raising money elsewhere right now, so I think that's a good place for him. But he is our senior vice president for research. He comes from the University of Minnesota, just as Eric did. That was a $1 billion enterprise of research. What that does for a region is significant. He knows how to do it. Eric knows how to do it. Michael knows how to do it. So it is a new day in terms of the faculty hiring we're going to be doing, because at the foundation of this work, it's the faculty that's connecting to the industry, connecting to the federal research grants, connecting to the students. We are doing faculty hiring, we're doing research hiring, we're changing systems. So it is a new time. And this project, some people have asked, why aren't we going after a type 2 NSF engine? Why are we doing type 1? We're doing type 1 because we want to build this correctly and bring all the incredible pieces that we have in the county, in the city, in the region together and put CASE in its proper place in these conversations to help build ourselves and the region around this. So it's a new time. Thank you for asking that question.
So again, I come back to if there's a role, and I don't know if there is, for the city and the county, and I can only speak for the county, but, you know, I believe Jack, County Council, Paul, and others would be supportive if there's some aspect that we can do to be helpful.
Perfect. And one thing I will say is we have we changed the role of community engagement and our local government engagement. It now reports directly to the president. And so Julian Rogers is our key connector point, and he is doing work to bring everybody into the table. So you will have more answers to that question as we go forward.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Other questions?
Anybody?
So, you know, we would clearly point to Silicon Valley, Boston, Austin, Research Triangle, Park. I think what's worked in each of those has been organic and slightly different based on the right, you know, confluence of events, people, investments, and resources. And Lisa, you know, feel free to chime in on this, but if we look at, say, Research Triangle Park or even Pittsburgh, right, it is the right partnerships between the higher academic institutions, the chambers and the business community, and the local government all rowing in the same direction, which frankly, you know, we've had mixed experiences here in Northeast Ohio, let's just be honest, right, with that happening. I think with the leadership in the institutions and the government that we have right now, I am optimistic that all the pieces are aligning.
And I will say on the Pittsburgh piece, I think it's important. They placed some really big bets on their software institute, what are we at, 20 plus years ago.
In the 70s.
30 more, oh yeah, okay, more than 50 years ago. I'm just getting my time right. And so universities being engaged in this space and placing the bets from a research perspective, in each of those examples, there's strong research universities. So that it is important for CASE to do this work in addition to the work that we're doing in our bio space and our medical space. I mean, we have a top 25 School of Medicine. And, you know, if you look at our $400 million research portfolio, it is our School of Medicine. They're great partners with the clinic. I mean, we're doing, you know, great there. It's the engineering side of the house that we need to kind of pull up. So that's really what we're going to be targeting. And that's what some of these other regions have done as well, is that really that focus on the engineering side, particularly in the Pittsburgh region.
And there's increasing, you know, we don't have time to go into all the wins there in this sort of manufacturing, engineering related, but two big announcements a couple weeks ago with some significant National Science Foundation funding for engineering research centers, one of which is focused on manufacturing, working with OSU and 4 other universities. There's other work with DARPA and DOD. There's lots of Department of Energy work, and there's a whole stream of these things coming together that we think the whole will be greater than the sum of the parts, particularly as we tie into these activities.
My concern is that and I understand Harmon talking with his friends over in Allegheny, because when I came on county government 12 years ago, of course we were trying to chase, but sometimes you might ignore that horse and just carve our own space. I think that we are in a position to carve our own space. What's going on with the sector partnership, things of that nature. You said research, how about that? Your head already thinks. Research, you think of Silicon Valley, your brain already thinks. Manufacturing technology, no one thinks of where that is in the world. One of the things that we've said in the sector partnership, we will be the manufacturing educational research center for the entire United States. You claim that space, and we dominate it. They're going to be chasing last year's horse. I think we have the position to actually carve out that space. I hope cases.
Here.
We love it. We love it.
Who wants to be part of that?
We love it. Yeah, I think you will see a big partner.
And the multiplier effect is just astronomical as far as when that happens.
It pulls in the entrepreneurial, venture capital. Yeah.
We should carve our own space, not necessarily they're gonna be calling us in 10 years. We're gonna be, we'll pass them, they won't see us.
I love it.
Thank you.
We're gonna win the Super Bowl too,
Okay.
You heard it here first.
Bet on the universities first.
Yeah, which one's first?
The most important one we just talked about.
You know, I'll just make maybe a closing comment here. So President Kaler also co-chairs GCP's new Innovation and Growth Committee. And that's the committee that's now overseeing not just CIP, but really the innovation and research strategy for the region. The measure that we're using to make sure we're making progress as a region is the amount of research expenditure and innovation capital, venture capital deployed year over year in the region. So it's about excellence, but it's also about scaling these efforts, as Lisa knows from our very early conversations, that we need to do more of everything. That includes our research institutions, it includes NASA Glenn, and it includes, again, venture capital deployed into our companies. The last thing, though, is like all of this data is interesting and we're going to track it because it's going to drive strategy. But I want to go back to whoever said storytelling is critical. Right? It's about making sure people know that this is actually happening and how do you get inspired? How do we get more stories like what the Cleveland Clinic shared, where it's the student that understands that this is occurring and wants to be a part of it. We have to be telling the stories. We have to do a much better job of telling the stories of what's happening in our institutions, what's happening out at NASA, what's happening at our both great historic companies like Vitamix, Jack, where you and I were yesterday, but also our startup companies. And that's where we are not yet doing well as a region.
Thank you both very much for coming in.
Appreciate the opportunity.
And thanks for everybody. Talianje, our Cleveland Clinic and IBM folks, thank you. And thank you all for coming in. And if there's no other business, then we'll be adjourned.